exciting episode of Live With. I'm your host, Dave Palumbo, and it is August 18th, 2015, and we're here with our guest of the evening, IFBB Women's Bodybuilding Pro, Debi Laszewski. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Deb. Now, Deb, you were the runner-up at the Ms.Olympia contest, the biggest women's bodybuilding event of the year in 2012. That was the highest placing to date. You were third the last 2 years. You were one of the premier women bodybuilders on the planet, and you're going to be going in this coming weekend to the new greatest show on earth, so to speak, for women bodybuilding, the Rising Phoenix show. Tell us about how you're feeling and what your preparations have been like.
I'm really, really excited, Dave, for this weekend. I can't wait. I've been prepping all year, not even sure, as women bodybuilders, we weren't unsure what was going to happen. Fortunately enough, Wings of Strength, along with Tim Gardner Productions, were able to, put together this magnificent show. You can tell they're very passionate about what they do in women's bodybuilding, and I'm grateful. Because I knew my body could bring out more, and I've not quite been happy or content yet where it's gone. So I knew there were some components to work on. So I really restructured and I did things differently this year. And I would say, the best I've ever looked in my entire life.
Now, with the cancellation of the Ms. International that used to be held with the Arnold Classic 2 years ago, and then this year finding out that the Ms.Olympia was not going to happen, it had to be a little disheartening at first. And then obviously the Wings of Strength people came along and they said, you know what? We're going to do it bigger than the Ms.Olympia. And this Rising Phoenix show that will be taking place in San Antonio, Texas this Saturday will be the biggest event maybe ever. It's $50,000 for first place, along with a brand new Jeep. Iris Kyle, obviously the 10-time Miss Olympia champ, is retired. Elena Popa, who was second last year, tore her biceps. She won't be in the event. You're it. You're next. This has got to be a tremendously exciting for you going into this show.
It really is, Dave. But we have a lot of good competitors. I don't ever take anything for granted because everybody's hungry. Everybody wants that number one spot. I've been wanting it for about 7 years, so I can tell you I'm really hungry. But I'm also really fortunate enough to have people around me that support me. And I'm also fortunate enough to be able to look at myself outside of myself being a seasoned athlete, that I know I can make improvements. And so what I did this year that tremendously has changed my physique, I don't even look like the same, is I hired Charles Glass. I've been training in California for 8 months. And he's, like with Dexter Jackson, he's taken some areas, upper chest, lats, my laterals, and my in my quads, and everything's changed into an X frame. So he was able to work with me all year. I've been here for the last month training with him every day, getting ready for the show. So, I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm not leaving any stones unturned. George Farrah's still doing my nutrition. So I feel really confident that I've had a really good team and I'm working smarter and, just giving it 100% and putting it out there. And I hope it comes together like I'm hoping it will.
Now, do you feel like it's a little redemption, though, for the women bodybuilders? I mean, you guys have been so disrespected in the sense that, you lost the Arnold, you lost the Olympia, and now here it comes Rising Phoenix, and there's more money available for you guys that never was available. Matter of fact, more money than figure's going to get at the Olympia, than bikini's going to get at the Olympia, than women's physique is going to get at the Olympia. So truly, the Rising Phoenix show is the biggest women's event of the year.
Yeah, I don't feel disrespected. I never really take it personally because, really at the end of the day, it's not a personal attack, it's business. It's people making money. You're in a sport, you're in an industry where, you don't always know the what's going on behind the scenes. And, if you take things personal and it's disheartening to yourself, you lose the momentum of what you're trying to do as an athlete. And that is to be positive, to be better than ever. And all of that to me just weighs me down. So I don't get caught up in all that. It is what it is. You know, my boyfriend's a really good example for me at that. He always says, Debbie, it is what it is. Focus on going forward. Because none of those things matter. What matters is what you're doing right now.
Right.
So I just try to, put my head down, go forward, and just focus on what I need to do with my physique. But I'm so grateful and appreciative, that I was able to be in the Olympia and the Arnold all these years, for the prestigiousness of those shows. Yes, you look at the monies as you're explaining, Dave, and for, anybody, the figure and all the different divisions in the 212, it is a little like, really? But it is what it is. So it is exciting to know that Wings of Strength believe in us so much to put their money out of their pockets to, create this platform to create, bring back women's bodybuilding with a vengeance.
And Debbie, you have been standing next to Iris Kyle on stage, as the second place competitor. You heard your name called out second. That's, probably higher than anyone ever would have expected you to ever go at the Olympia level. I mean, that's one of the greatest accolades to play second next to Iris Kyle. But the interesting fact about your career is that you never won a pro show. You've been second, at the Olympia. You've gotten many thirds at the Olympia. You've placed very high at the International. You've never won a show. You might be the only person ever to place second at the Olympia, but yet never win a pro show. It's a weird statistic, but you've been one of these consummate professionals that have always hit the big shows every year.
Yeah, because we all want to win, but it's about being better every year. Winning, in our minds, we think if we win, it validates what we've done, right? Sometimes people can win and then they don't improve and get better. I also like to look at it, on a side note, as the judges, I think, people want to get into politics. And I say to people, I don't get into that either. Because maybe the judges see something in me, she could be better. She could push more. So I just look at it and say, it's not my time. I got to be better. And I'm a perfectionist. So I look at it and say, it isn't my time. I'm going to keep making my physique better. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better and not worry about all the other stuff. But it is interesting. I know I've never won. So, you can say, I'd be lying to say if I didn't want to win, because to have that number one call out would be such an emotional thing for me. I could cry right now because it's really deeply inside of me, because that's something I do want to achieve. But I want to achieve it when I know my physique is deserving of it. And I feel really, really good about, the weaknesses that I had that I improved this year, because it's tremendous.
Now, granted, the reason you never won the big show is because there was always Iris Kyle standing next to you. So it's got to make you feel pretty good that she's not going to be there anymore. Obviously, that was a big impediment. I mean, she's so much bigger. She was so much taller and bigger than you that it was hard to compare you guys. It was kind of like Arnold and Franco back in the day, 1 and 2. And then Franco won the Olympia when Arnold left. Is it kind of like a whoof moment for you that she's kind of off the scene now?
Well, yeah, of course. I'd be lying to say, oh, she retired. I actually ran into her a few weeks ago here in Venice at the Goals Run training. And I go, you are doing the show, are you? She's like, no. I said, okay. But, in a way, it's kind of like, I said, she'll be missed too, because she's always been there. She's someone that we always kind of use as a level of training to say, that's what we got to acquire. That's what we got to be. So now there's going to be a whole new standard set. We don't have the Iris. We have something new that's going to be created. And what's that standard? Who's going to be that standard as far as what has to be beat for next year? So that's exciting.
What do you think? Putting yourself out of the equation, because obviously you can't be unbiased if you consider yourself. But what should be the standard of women's bodybuilding now? Now that you got women's physique, and they've let the women's physique athletes get pretty big. I almost think that there's a lot of crossover at some point. Where should women's bodybuilding be held in your mind?
Well, I still believe, like every division, shape and symmetry is key. You could be shredded, you could have big buys, big quads, but if you don't have balance and symmetry, it doesn't really matter. So with what you're saying, we have physique, and it's getting bigger, so we can stay the size that we are, but always still keep it pretty, keep the lines pretty, keep the balance, keep the symmetry. That's something that Iris did. And, usually people in the top level in Olympia, would set the bar for that symmetry. So I still think the same criteria should apply when it comes to the judging on that. Oh, wow. I didn't really assess the competition. There's a lot of good new faces, a lot of people that have brought their physiques up. Like I said, they're hungry for it. I don't really know. I mean, I couldn't tell you because sometimes, um, well, I think everybody has something to bring to the table. I can't just designate one person. But I also do think that, the person with the fewest weak points wins. And I think we have a situation where there's some really good components and good physiques and structures, but then this might be an issue or this might be an issue. And I think that's where there's going to be, a bridge in the show possibly. Because some of these people are new and they're, that mature muscle hasn't quite gotten to that point yet, but their potential is really, astronomical. But like I said, we don't know what can happen. I mean, I'm worried about me, and that's pretty much it right now because I don't know. You never know.
Do you think your biggest challenge will come from, say, like a Yaxani Orquin, who's a former Miss Olympia, who's battled with Iris on stage, or will it come from new blood, like an Alana Shipp or a Margie Martin, for instance?
That's a hard call because sometimes Yaxani's on, sometimes she's off. I've beat her the last 3 years, and I'm way better than I was those years. So, I think, there might be some new blood in there that into the mix. It makes it exciting. I'm not really sure, to call. I can't give you a name really on that one. I think you're a better judge than me on that, possibly.
Speaking of new blood, Deb, obviously we want women's bodybuilding to continue. Okay, we don't want the sport to die, obviously. Women's physique have really upped their game in the sense that the women are more muscular now. So how does a woman who's coming up in the ranks, in your mind, decide, I want to do women's physique or I want to do women's bodybuilding? And how do we encourage more women to do women's bodybuilding?
Well, I think in some sense, it's an easy no-brainer if you allow your body to be what it naturally is going to be. Instead of resisting, some girls resist because they're afraid to get too big, where some people, their body just goes there. I see some girls in the gym that have big quads and, you see them where you're like, holy cow, they're naturally gifted. They could be a kick-butt bodybuilder. But for some reason, and I speak with them, they're a little nervous and they're trying to bring their legs down to be a physique person. And I go, why? Embrace being a bodybuilder. Those are some areas that are hard for some people to build. Work on the detail and the maturity of that muscle. So I think people just need to let their body what naturally is genetically gifted and let that happen versus trying to conform to a specific size when your body may want to be bigger. Right. And I think that's where bodybuilding can excel because I think that will lead that way open, pay that way for people who are bigger naturally.
Do you think that women now who maybe have turned pro in women's physique will now see that there's more money in women's bodybuilding because of the Wings of Strength people and these shows that they're putting on with Tim Gardner all over the country? And they might say, you know what? I could get a little bigger and I could do bodybuilding. Do you think that maybe the women's physique, I guess you could say, almost is going to be like the nurturing ground for the new women bodybuilders of the future.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, that'll be another platform for them to fall into. Because some of these girls, as you know, they start training and they blossom, they get big. So instead of holding back and seeing a certain size, they may want to train heavy. They may want to let their bodies grow. And I believe that this will allow them, an area to go into that's growing.
How about this? Here's my suggestion. I see women's bodybuilding and I see women's physique paralleling each other. Is there ever a point that we combine them and we allow the Wings of Strength people to support women's physique and women's bodybuilding, and we maybe call the sport something together? Or do you think that there still is a definitive line that we should keep them apart?
Well, that's something that's up to the judges. I think they're ultimately, at the end of the day, in control of that. That basis. That's going to be based on how they consistently judge the physique at this point now.
How about, here's the question I have for you. I know your internet's breaking up a little bit. We'll try to bear with it a little bit. If women's bodybuilding had closed up shop, if the Wings of Strength people weren't there, would you have competed in women's physique? Because you're one of the competitors I think that could probably cross over if they had to.
No, because I think my body is kind of I think my physique would look as good as small. I think my lines that make me how I am now, especially where I've gotten this year, I don't think it would do justice. And I've done this a long time, so that would have been a chance I would retired. I'm not a newbie at it anymore.
Yeah, we don't want to see you retire, so we're glad women's bodybuilding is still around and better than ever. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this Phoenix Rising show this coming weekend in San Antonio. If you want to watch it live, flowmuscle.com, FLO muscle.com. You can sign up today. Deb, thanks for spending some time with us and talking to us and filling us in on what's going on in your life. And good luck this Saturday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys.
All right. That'll do it for another episode of Live With. I am Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next week.